To welcome Casey's Outdoor Solutions as a sponsor to our podcast. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.
All right, hey guys, what's going on? We're back here doing another show. I think I should take the lead on this, Merle, because based off of what we were doing upstairs, you were crying a little bit. You're kind of whiny. And I'm just not sure if I can really do a whole show with you.
Whoa, you're just cold. What's going on?
I do have a cold. I do have a cold.
You do have a cold. You sound terrible. What the heck? Get away from me.
Well,
you sure it's not COVID?
Merle, no, it's not.
If you're COVID, dude, I'm putting you out. I'm just taking you out back and shooting you.
That's so nice. You were upstairs. You were crying. What's going on? What are you crying about?
Man, life's just tough, you know?
It is.
I mean, it's rainy outside again.
I know.
Things just aren't going my way. Can you just let me pout for a while? Can you let me cry?
Well, if that's really if we're gonna start the show with you crying and pouting, I think we need to put the pause on the camera, and you
go to your room and cry.
Go to your room, have Linda hug you and hold you gingerly, and just go pout.
I'm laughing. I've never seen that happen in my life. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Just Linda, will you hold me?
Hold me tight.
Just really upset.
All right. So what are we doing here today? We are talking about feelings.
Oh boy.
Should men talk about their feelings? Actually, this show is going to be teed up for you, just dead on. Man.
Yeah.
So let me give a little background just to kind of understand like why we're talking about this. So recently had an opportunity to work with a gentleman, and it was interesting because he came into me with the idea that he was told that he needs to learn to talk about his feelings. And okay, all right, well, cool. So he comes in and he expresses this, and you could tell it wasn't from him. He was told that he needs to do this.
Okay.
And so my first response was, I'm not sure if you've come to the right place. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, like, well, what kind of advice did I give? And that I stand by the advice because it's more than just talking about feelings.
Okay.
So we're going to go down that road a little bit today. So stop your whining and let's thank a few sponsors.
Yeah, we definitely should do that.
Definitely.
You're on the pod.
Huh?
Your mic's going in and out the whole time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so is you're still being recorded, so keep it going.
Oh, okay. We're just going with it?
Yep.
All right, so yes, we would love to thank Crimer at Beer House for coming alongside of us. Thanks so much for them. Definitely go down there, Route 128, and check them out. They got a pretty cool setting. We got to get down there and do another little date night.
We're about due, yeah.
We're due for that.
About due to check out the urinal.
Yes, Crimer at Beer House. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Also like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. So we thank Casey for all his work in the community, both in the landscape world as well as just being a community partner. So we want to thank Casey. So for any of your landscaping needs or gifts, they have all kinds of gifts.
I'm getting ready to go down there, get some mulch.
Yeah. Well, they have it all down there. So go on down and check out Casey's, located outside of Bright on State Line Road. All right. So let's get right to task here.
You know, when right before we did our sponsors, you had made reference to things that are going on, in your life. And I think before we dive into this show, I just want to make a point, like, majority of the topics that we talk about on this show are things that are just going on in our life, things that are kind of like we're wrestling with and different stuff. So if any of you guys have stuff that you are wrestling with, any stuff that you guys are thinking about, have questions about, man, shoot them our way. We would love in the comment sections below on the YouTube page or through phone calls or emails, man. reach out. We would love to tackle some different conversations, some different topics with you guys, stuff that you guys are dealing with. We would love to come alongside with you guys. I just want to make a point of that because this show is something that kind of you experienced. You had a client come into your office, and I think it's really cool that this stems into a show, and there's other guys that are dealing with this exact same thing that gentleman came to your show or into your office. So
yeah, well, I grabbed hold of this topic too, though, just because, like you said, it's stuff that comes into my office, but it's also a cultural thing.
Sure.
Like this guy, and again, they're super guy, and his wife super. But the idea that we get our head wrapped around something that the culture suggests, like you need to be better at doing this or that. Well, okay, wait, what does that mean? Like in God's word? And what does that really mean for a man in this case? And so we really want to talk a little bit about it. And like you said, there's other things, whether how we interact with our wife, how we discipline kids. All these things are things that are real life things. And so if you have those questions, bring them to us. Yeah. All right, love to help you with that. While we're on that, if you like this show, subscribe. If you like this show, share it. Pass it on. It on. We continue to grow, and hopefully we are of value. Hopefully the message means something to you. So we enjoy what we're doing here. So let's keep on keeping.
Well, this show is something like I was saying before, something that you kind of came up with. So I'm going to let you take the lead because talking about my feelings and the emotional side of life, as Jenny would tell you, I'm not always the best at. So,
well, there's a reason why you're not good at it, okay? And we'll get into that a little bit. Like a lot of guys are not good at it because we'll get into like what is an emotion, okay? So let's break it down a little bit.
Sure.
So the first thing that we have to realize is emotions are powerful. Okay, they are powerful. I don't care whether it's screaming at a ball game, cheering on your team, or whether it's the death of a close family member. They are powerful. And the reason why a lot of times us guys struggle with it is because the emotion is such a powerful energy that it creates a lot of times an uncertainty of control. Like, oh, what do I do with this?
Right.
What do I do with this? All right. It can create. It's so powerful that it can actually create weird physical symptoms, like I don't feel good. Or I'm going to faint, or my heart's beating out of my chest. So these are things that make us feel out of control. And so it's one of those things that if I can avoid, I'm going to avoid. Yeah. I don't want to do this, okay? Like I don't know a whole lot of people who like the idea of feeling nauseous to the point where they finally vomit. Yeah. No. That is a weird physical feeling. That whole feeling of getting ready to vomit, like, no, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that, right? And so emotions, especially negative emotions, can be so powerful that I don't care how big of a man you are physically, you go, I do not want to go down that road.
Right.
Okay. So first off, recognizing the power. But, a lightning bolt is a lot of power.
Sure.
But if you harness that the right way, you can turn it into useful electricity and do a lot of amazing things. Right. And so that's why it's first important for all of us men to recognize the power of emotions.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the first point that we really want to make sure we lay out.
And I think this brings up a great point that and I know myself included in this. I think a lot of times men get the idea that emotions are just crying or just I'm sad today, and like I said, this is big for me because when I say I'm not an emotional guy, like if you spark a passion in me, like if you spark something that I'm passionate about, you'll see some emotions. I'll get angry,
right?
I'll let you, I'll speak my mind, and those are emotions. A lot of times, I know for me, I think emotions are just the sad part of it. And the flip side of that is there's a lot of guys who deal with anger and having anger problems because they let the emotions get the best of them. And to your point, that those emotions can be very, very powerful. They can be detrimental to so many people when you do speak those words of hate and those words of anger. When you speak those words, man, they are very, very powerful.
Right, exactly. And so I think it's important, like you said, you're not very emotional. Well, I would tend to disagree with you. I would tend to say, because I've seen you do get angry at things.
Oh,
you
yeah.
do get upset. You walked in my house angry today, okay? And so I do see those things in you, but it's not knowing what to do with them that creates the confusion, and confusion leads to avoidance or jumping in full tilt and going over the top, okay? And that's where we see some of that we call rage in a lot of men, all right? So it's more of, I don't know what to do with this, all right? So recognizing the power of an emotion is first why we have to have this conversation. The second reason is also understanding the physical chemical changes that happen. And this is important because if I don't use it properly, I can actually screw myself up in a big way. All right. So chemically, when your body is stressed, when it's emotional, okay, so emotions can cause stress. Stress can be good stress or bad stress.
Sure.
All right. But either way, it causes physical changes. And so a good stress might be like, man, I'm all excited. My game is playing and the adrenaline's flowing. I get this dopamine surge, which is, man, I just hit the home run and everybody's cheering for me and I feel awesome. You know, we hear athletes talk about missing that, like, man, the glory days, okay? So that's a very powerful thing. But the chemistry on the other side is if I'm stressed and the emotions of sadness and anger and frustration, those also create chemicals like cortisol and noradrenaline and things that suppress us, that want to hold us back to the point where we just don't even want to get out of bed. All right. And so that is just as powerful. That leads to deep depression.
Sure.
Okay. So understanding that if I get stuck in an extreme emotion, it puts my body into an out of equilibrium sort of place. It's not a place, you can't live in an extreme emotion for a long period of time without paying a price because it takes so much energy to do it. Okay.
Yeah, so good. I mean, which I think that stems or goes right into the next idea that your emotional thinking can't be at the forefront at the same time as illogical thinking. Like they should be separate, because to try and have a logical thought process in the midst of all those chemical reactions happening in your brain, the negative or the positive, when you're in an emotional state, it's very, very difficult to look at things logically, which is why, here at Strong Dads, we have a tendency to call out the men a lot. Like, you have to be that stability factor in your house. Like, you have to be able to take those emotions and set them aside for a second to actually think logically, to actually go through the process of whatever you're dealing with, whether it's an argument with your wife, whether, your kids are misbehaving, whatever that situation is, man, you have to be able to take those emotions and set those aside. Not that you should suppress them all the way and never, never bring them back up to the surface, but like for a certain time, especially when emotions are running high in your household, like you have to be, as the man, you have to have the ability to set those emotions aside for a second and let's think logically about this. Let's go through the process of dealing with whatever is going on in your house. Sure, we can bring those emotions because, again, just like you were saying, Merle, like, all emotions are not bad. They are very powerful, and we should harness those and use those in the time frame that need to be used. But man, you have to be able to set those emotions aside and think logically and go through that process. Right.
I want to, and I reference this a lot because of actually the usefulness of it. As you said, the brain cannot operate in extreme emotion or extreme logic well for any long period of time.
Sure.
Okay. It doesn't do well. All right. So the idea that if I'm in extreme emotion, I am exhausting to myself. I am the drama king. Everything's a big deal. Everything is blown out of proportion. All right. And so it sucks a lot of energy out of you and out of other people. If I'm completely in the logical brain all the time, I am very inept at relationships. I can't connect to people. I have a very low emotional IQ in terms of understanding how to reach into others. And so either side of that spectrum is not where we want to maintain daily living. Sure. We need to have the dance kind of somewhere in the middle. And the way that we do that is we recognize where we like to sit. So we're going to go through like exactly the advice of how to go through those steps. Here's the bottom line. God created these, right?
Sure.
And in particular, he created men and women, and we have our common sitting place more to one side or the other. Like, more generally speaking, men tend to sit in a logical mindset, right? Problem solving, having to be able to stay calm in battle, have to be able to think quick on your feet. That does not mean women can't do that. So please don't even go down that road with us. No, women can do it and can do it very well. Oftentimes, it is a very practiced skill that any of us can become very proficient at, all right? The other side of it, though, is women are created more in an emotional side of the spectrum, because that's where they connect with people, they connect with kids, they understand the nurturing that needs to take place. Where you and I remember, when my kids would fall and scrape their knee, they'd come running right past me to go to mommy, because daddy was going to say, "Suck it up, Junior," and mommy'd be like, "Come here, buddy, come here," And so it's just like, okay, that's what they need right there at that time. They need mom. So it's really important that we understand these are not good or bad. They are there for a reason, for societal sake. All right.
And I want to make a note on that. I mean, here at Strong Dads, obviously we're faith-based, and I think when we look at Scripture, when we look at who Jesus was, I was told a long time ago that if you look all through Scripture, when Jesus was actually healing people and going through, the miracles that he performed, one of the coolest things, if you read through Scripture, like, Jesus would heal people's physical needs before he dealt with their emotional needs, and I think it's a great point of reference, because if Jesus is supposed to be our reference for what we do in life, I think it's a great example that when we go through life, man, sometimes the physical needs of people need to come before their emotions. Like, the emotions need to be fixed and need to be addressed, absolutely. But I think it just goes to that point that the logical portion, as men, we need to separate those and realize that the logical sometimes needs to take the forefront of those emotions. Yes, again, those emotions are important. We need to address those. But if we're to use Jesus as our example, like, Jesus dealt with people's physical needs right now, then he came back, and then let's deal with the emotional side.
Right. Yeah. Let's help people through that. So, guys, what we want to do, are you strong dads out there, please pay attention to what we're going to help you walk through. And this is kind of what I helped the young man out that I was working with, the idea of trying to give him direction with emotions, but then use his masculinity to help him do his job, all right? This is out of 1 Kings chapter 2. And so I just give you a little preference here, a little reference to this. This is David talking to Solomon, and David basically is kind of, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to be around forever." And he makes this statement. He says, "When the time drew near for David to die, he gave a charge to Solomon his son. I am about to go the way of all the earth," he said. "Be strong, act like a man, and observe what the Lord God requires." And then he goes through and listen to what he says here. "Walk in obedience to him and keep his decrees and commands as the laws and regulations as written in the law of Moses. Do this so that you may prosper in all you do and wherever you go." Okay, think about what he just said. He said, "I need you to be a man."
Yeah.
But then he said, "Here's what you need to do. You need to stay in touch with God. You need to think about what God is wanting you to do. You need to understand that." He points him here to the idea of the law of Moses. Like, you're here to help maintain order. Yeah. The law is there for order. You're here to help maintain this group. And if you're all crazy and wild and whacked out, you're not going to do a good job of maintaining that. So David is saying, be a man here, right?
I love that where it says he gave a charge. Like, to me, that says he's giving him go do an action, go do something.
Yeah.
Like he's calling him to action. That I just love the wording of charge, and I don't know what the translation, how it got changed over time, but I love that this translation says, like, it's a call to action.
Yeah, go out,
go do something. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
All right, so I put together an acronym here. All right, or I'm sorry, an acrostic. An acrostic,
Learn me gooder.
Learn me good. And so follow what we're talking about here. These are the steps that I help guys with when they're trying to figure out whether I got a guy who comes in and they're full of rage and anger. I have guys come in, I've got an anger problem, an anger management problem. Oh, okay. So do you? All right. So what do we need to do? And so whether it's a guy who's stuck and feeling sorry for themselves and can't get out of their own way, these are some of the steps that I help them walk through. All right. The first one is to identify the emotion.
What is the whatever you call it? It's not an acronym. What is it?
The acrostic. I.R.A.C. I didn't say that, did I?
You didn't.
I.R.A.C. Not like the country. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I.R.A.C. I.R.A.C. So the I stands for identify.
Okay.
Okay. And so this is important. This is not like that idea like, well, I need to learn to talk about my emotions. No, you need to learn to identify your emotions. You need to be able to say, I'm pissed.
Sure.
I'm hurt.
Yep.
I'm angry. We don't need a whole lot of words for this, guys, but we need to be able to actually go after what it is that we're feeling. We have to identify it. Okay. We have to put our finger on it.
Well, and I think this is so very important. Our last 3 shows that we did that little mini series, and one of the common themes that went through all 3 of those, as far as how to improve our marriage, how to improve our kids and our family, and how to improve ourselves as a man, is we talked about communication. And man, this is a great thing that we need to practice as men, myself and both of us here included. Like when we talk about identifying, like if your wife says something that pisses you off or something's going on in your life, to not tell her what you're feeling and the thoughts that are going through your head, you're doing a disservice to your relationship. Like we have to, if your wife says something that hurts your feelings, as kind of as maybe sissy as that sounds, like if your wife says something, like you need to communicate that. We have to learn as men that it's okay to say, you piss me off.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with, again, it's what we do with that. Again, that charge that David gave a charge to Solomon to go do this. Like it's not that like you're pissed off, but it's what we do with that. But I think the first part of that is we have to identify that you are mad, that you are jealous, that whatever you're going through, you actually are speaking those words.
Yeah. And I want to make sure we shift that just a little bit, because remember, people don't piss you off. You allow people to piss you off.
Sure.
Okay.
Good point.
So in other words, you didn't piss me off. I am allowing you to piss me off.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Because that puts it back in my control. Because somebody could say something to me that I don't even know, and I just walk right by it and go, oh, whatever. But somebody else could say the exact same words that I do know. In other words, I've given permission for them to speak into my life.
Sure.
And it just is killing me.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is under my control. I want to recognize that I am the one who am allowing myself to be offended or hurt or whatever it is. Okay. So that's the first idea. Identify what you're feeling. Okay. And we don't need to get all wordy here. We just need to say, this is how I'm feeling. Okay. Right. Our culture has maybe at one time it was like, we don't care about your feelings. And again, I get that statement. I don't care about your feelings. We just work with facts. I get all that. We're going to get to that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do care about the feeling because the power of the emotion that I'm trying to harness. And so, but if I have all of this feeling and I just wallow in it, it's kind of like chaos.
Sure.
I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just spinning in circles. And that's where that is more of a feminine characteristic. And that's why you'll see ladies can sit around and talk about things that are upsetting them for lots and lots and lots of time. And, guys are like, I'm done already. I can't talk about this
You're
forever.
going to get an email about what you just said.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking to the genders here, okay? Again, no, I didn't say one was right or wrong. I'm just saying that it drives us crazy as men to circle. But our culture has said, oh, it's okay for you to be there. It's okay for you to be there. And it's like, no, it's not. Yep. It's not okay to stay there. And that's my point. It's not okay to stay there. We get stuck, all right? So our first thing was identify. The second thing, the R, is to recognize, all right? A lot of times we're angry and we're upset, and we don't even really recognize the entire situation of where we are. Like all of a sudden, I'm just like, I'm ticked at the world.
Yep, and you get that tunnel vision. Like,
Yeah.
This is the only thing I can think about right now. I'm just so pissed off. I can't think anything logically. My emotions are running wild right now.
Yeah. And you can be so deep in the emotion and everybody else is seeing it in you and you're not quite seeing it in yourself. Like my family used to make fun of me all the time because, man, when I would get mad, I've mentioned this in other shows before, I'd start chewing the inside of my cheek, right? And I'd start like I was going to eat my face off or something. And they would start laughing.
Yep.
Because there was no sympathy in our house at all, And they would see me do that, and they would catch me do it before I caught myself, before I recognized it myself. And so right away, they would either, antagonize me more or, do something that let me know, he's ticked off. Okay.
Right.
Here's the key. Recognize means I know what my symptoms are. I know what I'm doing with it. I need to catch that I'm chewing the inside of my cheeks before anybody else does.
Yep.
I need to recognize that I'm clenching my jaw. I need to recognize that I'm balling up my fist. I have to recognize it. If I don't recognize it before other people, chances are I'm going to get messy with it.
Yep. This made me think of in my job as a fireman. Man, early on in my career, and guys, you can tell when they're new into the fire service, new guys that come to work for us. Like we'll get toned out for a structure fire, like a house is on fire, and we'll be driving down, and then you see the header, you see the big smoke cloud, so we know we have a fire. And man, it is crazy to see new guys get worked up. And which rightfully so, it is nerve-wracking. Like there's a lot of emotions that can run wild, right? And it's crazy to see these guys that get super, super worked up and they can't think logically. Their emotions have completely overtaken them. They get off and they forget tools. They get off and they forget their helmet. I can't tell you the number of guys that's happened to. And it's crazy to watch the progression because what happens is as you progress in your career, you start to recognize like, hey, that did no good for me. Like
right.
I pulled up on a scene and I couldn't think logically, and I'm scatterbrained. We call them squirrels, right? You act like a squirrel, like
I love it.
Deer in the headlight look, and you can't think logically because you haven't recognized the fact that those emotions are completely destroying you right now.
You got it.
And as guys progress in their careers, those guys have been on for 25 years and they get off the truck and they're like, all right, house is on fire. Let's go to work, boys. Yeah. Like, but they've gotten to that point where they've recognized that their emotions have overtaken them for a second, and they've had the ability. Again, experience teaches you that. But I think the same could be said that if over time you realize that your emotions constantly are overtaking you, you have to take that recognized period where you're like, all right, that did me no good. Like, the X amount of times prior to this where my emotions like just absolutely destroyed me, that brought me nowhere. It didn't uplift my marriage. It didn't uplift my family, myself as a man. I couldn't grow and develop and grow closer to Christ because my emotions got the best of me. I need to recognize, okay, my emotions are here. I need to take a time, whatever the woosah, like I have to take some time to recognize that I just need to calm down for a second.
Yeah, and so that is the key, right? So the key is once I recognize it, that I have to calm it down.
Yep.
Right. And this is not stuffing it back. This is not like I'm just not going to deal with it. This is like, all right. And so whether we take some deep breaths, whether we take a quick little walk, I call them mood busters or distractors, something that allows me to kind of regain composure. I have to do this actively, okay? I mean, when the 3-year-old's throwing a tantrum, you do it with them all the time. You say, hey, why don't you go in your room, or why don't you go sit on the couch, and why don't you calm down for a little bit? Why don't you take a little time, all right? And so you are recognizing that they need to get this emotion under control in order for us to go to problem solving.
Yeah.
All right. So I really want to be able to do that with myself. In other words, put yourself in this calming place so that we can get to work. Right. So the next part we did identify, we did recognize. The next part is ask. I'm going to give you the most powerful question that you can use for yourself. And also you teach your kids. I teach my kids this every time we run into any kind of challenge. You have to ask yourself this question: what can I do about this? Just ask yourself this question: what can I do about this? Not what do they need to do? There's nothing that can be done. The defeatist attitude that comes across there. What can I do? Your brain is amazing. When you actually challenge it with a question of problem solving, your brain will start to offer solutions. It doesn't mean it's always going to be the right solution, but it puts you on the track to solve things. And that's where we are called as men to go, to help solve things. You're naturally a fixer, but let's get some direction to your fix.
And what that question does, what can I do? That question, just like you were saying, Merle, when you ask that question to yourself, I think truly that is when that switch can happen. When you switch from being emotional to logical. Because if you continue to say, man, this is just, it keeps happening to me. My emotions keep getting the best of me. And you continue to play that victim card and continue to basically say that you convince yourself that there's no way you can make that switch. But all you have to do, and again, may seem very, very simple, but it's just that snowball effect where if you start to ask yourself, what can I do? What are the things I can fix in my life to ensure that those emotions don't get the best of me? You know, when we go on those fires, like how many times are you going to allow yourself to get so caught up in your emotions that you jump off the truck without your helmet? Like, what can I do about it? So whether that's like, you know, taking some time while you're en route to the fire and get your gloves on, make sure that I check, okay, I have everything. In the morning, one of the first things we do every single morning is we put our gear exactly where we want it. So that way when that fire does come out, we're ready for it. You know, those are the things I can do. You know, I can't change the circumstances that are going around me. I can't change if it's one house, if it's 5 houses on fire. The one thing I can change is the things I can affect. And those are making sure my tools are in the right place, my gear is where I want it to be, the guys that I'm working with are in a good mental state, I'm in a good mental state. Those are the things I can control. I can't control the external factors that go on.
Right. So that gets us to the last part. You ask yourself, what can I do? And so the C, the last part, is the control. Yeah. Okay. So the control means that you are going to do what you can control, all right? And really this is the plan, developing the plan. This takes a little bit of the sit-down time or the prep time like you talked about. The idea that, okay, I've asked myself what I can do. My brain starts firing through all the different things that I can do, and now I'm going to grab control of this. Remember, the reason why men don't like to deal with emotions is because it makes them feel out of control. In order for me to get back in control, I have to go through the logical thinking process. I have to develop some level plan. I don't even know if it's a good plan, guys. That's not my point. My point is if you develop a plan, it'll create a calmness in you and an opportunity to start practicing that action plan to see if you can get things resolved or get them where you want them to be. Yep. So the last part is control, all right, and it's putting that plan together.
Right, and part of that control made me think about with my oldest Ava, like when she was playing basketball, she allowed her emotions to get the best of her, and you know, after the games, after practice, we would set her aside and be like, Ava, like, what are things that you can control? Because, you know, again, when you allow those emotions to run wild, you lose all foresight of logical thinking, and you know, it's fine to have those emotions, but if you can't internalize those and turn those into something good, like what are those emotions doing? What are they doing for you? They're overtaking you, and they're you know, controlling every part of your life. So taking a step back and knowing that you are in control of what goes on with you.
Yeah. So we went through those steps of I.R.A.C. Okay, identify, recognize, asking yourself, and then control, taking control. Okay, but here's the bottom line: men get stuck. Mm-hmm. They get stuck in one of these. Okay, and there's basic reasons why we get stuck. One is just a general awareness, like not really being clued in on what's going on. They're just not even aware of how these chemicals are affecting them. They either minimize it, but they just get stuck. And so I will walk around and I'll deal with people in marriages who have been angry at their spouse for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And they've never identified it, but they do all these passive aggressive behaviors, whether they, intentionally don't take out the garbage, whether they intentionally, put the milk where she doesn't want it, or intentionally leave the toilet seat up. These are things that are just showing that you're stuck. You haven't dealt with it. And if you don't believe me, just look at your own life. Like, there are certain things, we call it poking the bear, right? Like, there's certain things you like to do because you're stuck and you want everybody else to feel your misery.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And I, to your point, the lack of direction or kind of having a game plan. Man, if you are just willy-nilly going through life and you don't have when this happens, I'm going to go through these steps. I'm going to take that time to identify. I'm going to actually say that I'm mad, and then after that, when you go through these emotional states, if you are unable to have a game plan set aside for yourself, that lack of direction, there's gonna be this stage where those emotions completely overtake you,
right?
And I think it's so important to have that direction, to have that guidance, like in your mind, to know that you are in control of this.
We have to be aware here, guys, because the culture wants you to be stuck. The culture wants you to not be aware.
Yep.
In other words, the culture wants you to be in victim status. Well, you can't control that. Well, that's because somebody did this to you or did that to you. And so whether we are holding other people liable for what has happened to us, whether we are pointing or blaming, is so much putting you out of control and putting it on such a large system that you have no control over. In other words, I won't be happy until the next party is in office. I won't be happy until this person is out of my life. No. That puts you in victim status, and you've not learned to channel your emotions properly to take care of what you need to take care of. And so understand how the culture has basically rewarded us to be stuck in our emotions, and we end up being very unhappy people in doing that.
Right. And the next one that you written down here, Merle, I think is so true. We've touched on this a little bit, but man, don't mishear what we're talking about when it comes to your emotions. You have the right to have emotions. You have the right to be mad. You have the right to be sad, to be pissed off. Whatever those emotions are, don't ever think that you as a man you don't have those rights to have those, because I think, just like you were saying, Merle, sometimes our society tells us that a man's supposed to act this way and they're supposed to do these certain things, and the way they feel and their actions are dictated by what their wife tells them or what their girlfriend tells them. Like, you have the right to have emotions, to go through the steps that we've been talking about. You have those rights to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Again, it's that call to action. It's that charge. Like, what are you going to do with those rights that you do have?
Right. So, guys, hopefully this is awesome stuff for you. I think you have to remember that the greatest things in life were birthed out of emotion, okay?
Yep.
I mean, that's where businesses are started. That's where marriages are made. That's where success comes from. So we do not say no to emotion. We have to recognize it and use it as God intended it to be used, all right? So don't run away from your emotion. Just grab hold of it and start to go through the process. So the bottom line is what we were talking about before, like you making fun of me and telling me to quit crying and whining. That made me feel really good. Thanks a lot. You hurt my feelings.
Merle, you need to go through the steps.
I need to I.R.A.C my emotions. So the bottom line, we talk about I.R.A.C-ing and the idea that we are going to go through this process. And the more you do this, the more just comfortable and non-mechanical it'll be. It becomes natural. And this is where we see people, like, I like to watch military guys, especially guys in special forces.
Yeah.
And so these guys, kind of like you guys, are put in like extreme situations with houses burning or whatever. Military special forces guys are put in extreme environments where they're tested, and at first their emotions blow out all kind of craziness, but through training and through practice, they become the guys who go get the job done, because they go through these steps that we just pointed out here today.
Which I think, as we close out this show, I just want to, give a word of encouragement for you dads out there. Man, if you guys want to teach the next generation of men, of young girls, how to go through emotions, man, I think the steps of identifying, to recognize, to ask, and to control those emotions, I think we can really teach teach our kids how to harness those emotions, to go through the logical steps of dealing with your emotions, setting those aside sometimes when it needs that, when your emotions need to be put aside. Again, not suppressing them and never bringing them back up again. But I think it's a great opportunity for us as dads to teach our kids. Again, before you're able to teach, sometimes you need to do it yourself and go through that evaluation process for yourself. But, man, I think we're called as men, as dads, to teach our kids how to do this.
Absolutely. So the challenge for the week, guys, is to go out there and kind of spend some time thinking about what emotion tends to grab you and hold on to you. It might be anger. It might be sadness. It might be just desperation. Whatever it is, whatever emotion seems to be negatively impacting you and holding you back, go through the I.R.A.C process. Go through that process and come out of that thing a winner rather than continuing to be the victim that you might be finding yourself in.
Yep.
All right, get us out of here.
Yeah. Again, thanks so much for Kramer's Beer House and Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Really do appreciate you guys coming alongside of us. All you listeners out there, thanks so much. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating, like Merle said earlier in the show, on Spotify, Apple, whatever, iHeart, whatever outlet you use for your podcast. Go out there, continue to share our show on Facebook or whatever social media platforms you use. Really appreciate you guys. Go out there and be some strong dads.
I think I'm just going to go cry now. I just can't take it anymore.
I got to sneeze. So that's
okay. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Kramer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Kramer's Beer House was started in 1982 by the Kramer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Kramer's Beer House.